What's up, guys? Ladies, too, if you're listening. This is the DFS 5-pack. We're here for night 2 of the NBA. I don't know how much of the games you got to watch last night. I did fall asleep. I now that I got a new schedule, I went full Bellman and fell asleep during the later games, so I didn't catch the second half of Golden State coming back over the Lakers. But I enjoyed watching my Bucks kind of come out triumphantly. But as I was going to warn a lot of people before they started last night, like Bucks Nets, like win or lose, like don't overreact on one game.
Yeah, one game in the NBA is certainly not like an NFL game. Not quite like an MLB game, but closer to an MLB game than an NFL game.
Now, again, as far as one games go, I think you can read something into Milwaukee, Brooklyn, but let's not overreact and pretend like, oh, no way will the Nets beat Milwaukee. Milwaukee's won 3 straight against them. Come on. It's early. It's early.
Yeah, agreed.
So, and this is coming from probably the world's biggest Bucks fan.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, but we got ourselves a big slate tonight. So we had a small one last night. We got through it. Hopefully everybody came out victoriously. I had a good night. Could have been a much better night if I had stuck with Jordan Nora, but I chickened out when Ken Bazemore. You win some, you lose some. We're still learning, right?
Yeah, that's how it works, man.
All right. So I'm going to ask a favor from a few of you guys. One, click that thumbs up button. It is always appreciated. If you want to retweet this, share it, always appreciated as well. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. But we do have weekly, monthly memberships up to the website link below. Both weekly and monthly memberships get both sports running right now, NFL and NBA, so it's a lot of value for your dollar. Also, welcome aboard to the new lifetime customers the last couple of days. Lifetime memberships and annual memberships also available. Those get access to every sport we cover.
Happy to have you guys.
All right. First place we're going to talk about, a young guy, and I'll let you get into your details on what you think about him. Real quickly, Scotty Barnes, Toronto Raptors, 3,400. Big thing right here, guys. One, going to be the matchup, facing the Wizards. The Wizards should not be any better at defense this year. They brought in Kuzma, Trez, Spencer Dinwiddie. This is not Bruce Bowen, prime Kawhi Leonard, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So this is still going to be an offensive-focused Wizards team. Probably not a lot of chemistry to start the year. Toronto should be able to score at will tonight. And because of his eligibility at forward, which is a lot weaker than the guard position, this price tag, he's going to be big chalk here. This team doesn't have Norman Powell. Kyle Lowry's in Miami. Siakam's hurt. Possibly no Chris Boucher either. He's big chalk for a reason. I think if you're playing a cash lineup, he's a lock. He's probably a good-looking GPP too.
Yeah, listen, the price is too cheap. And the only reason he's not like a stone cold lock is because there's cheap price tags all over this slate. So there's going to be guys, that we don't even mention that go off because it's, the first game of the season for all these teams. And there's just so many unknowns. That said, no Siakam, obviously Kyle Lowry's gone. Boucher is in, I read earlier. So It's worth noting, but it doesn't really affect Barnes all that much. This is a guy they took high in the draft. They kind of reached for him. He's going to be a key cog for them going forward. And at 3,400, I mean, it's not crazy to think that he walks into 8X here.
Exactly, because three things, guys. 3,400, facing the Wizards, forward eligible. This could be Scottie Pippen, right now, not in his prime, and he would be playable because of the price tag, the matchup, and the forward eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, so you want to talk about Joel Embiid here. And so you and I have had plenty of discussions over the years about what we label quote-unquote narratives, and a lot of times it's not something that I read a lot into. I like this one, though, man. I do expect good effort from Joel Embiid tonight. Spent the whole offseason listening to Ben Simmons whine and cry about the fact that he refuses to try and practice and all those things. I think it's a great spot for Embiid to play really, really engaged basketball tonight.
Yeah, I like Embiid a ton here. I mean, this is a keep it simple, stupid play for me. What's not to like? He balls without Ben Simmons on the court. You're going to get an extra motivated Embiid with all that other stuff going on, within the organization. Great spot against the New Orleans team that has no one to contain him. In a game, I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive than some might think. And another point that you made on the members only video that I've been thinking about, I do agree. The little bit of concern that there is with Embiid going absolutely nuts and New Orleans not being able to keep the game close is real. That's true with most superstars, though. And I will say, without Ben Simmons, their defense isn't going to be anything to what it was. And it's not like they're used to playing without him. So I think that suffers big time. I don't even think it's crazy to think New Orleans wins this game.
No, not at all. Philly on the road, right? That's been a thing for a long time now. They don't play as well on the road. So
For Embiid, like, I don't think Philly loses because Embiid doesn't play well. I think if Philly loses, it's because, most of the other guys can't do much and because New Orleans is scoring at will.
So I actually just got done training one of my clients, and he's a former college basketball player, and he's actually from Philadelphia, so he's a big 76ers guy. And we were talking about Jokic versus Embiid because I told him that we were going to feature Embiid on the show today and things like that. And he's like, is there anybody that would, he's the best big man in the game? I'm like, the only other argument is Jokic. And I think, like, if you wanted to build a team, a lot of GMs would go Jokic because of Embiid's health. But if you had to win one game today and had to choose a big man to go out there and start your team with to win one game, I do think the vast majority of basketball heads would go with Joel Embiid.
Yeah, agreed, for sure.
All right, moving along. Mutual favorite play of the day is going to be Tyrese Maxiell. Again, you guys all know it by now. The 76ers are coming out motivated today. No Ben Simmons. He's, suspended or whatever you want to call it, whatever's going on right there. But we do know he's not playing tonight. No Shake Milton is also really, really important because he's a guy that can come in and boogie, put people on skates and play some very effective point guard as well. So Tyrese Maxiell should see 28-plus minutes tonight, I would theorize, if not 35, depending on how competitive the game is.
Yeah, like, I think he sees 30-plus here. No Shake Milton, as you mentioned. Obviously, no Ben Simmons. This guy averaged like 0.8 DK points per minute with Joel Embiid on the floor last year when Simmons was off. I mean, you're telling me a guy like that's going to play 30-plus minutes at 4K. He's walking into value with upside for more. I think Maxiell's good. We saw it a couple times last year when Philly was really shorthanded. This guy went off. Not saying that I expect him to like 10X here, but it's within the realm of possibilities.
If I had to bet on 10X or 2X, I would bet 10.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you had to ask me to like predict a score for him, it would be between 25 and 30 DK points.
Yeah, agreed. I was going to say like 28. So I'm right there with you.
I mean, the only knock I have on Maxey today is guard is as loaded as David Hasselhoff eating a cheeseburger off the floor. Like, there is a lot of options there.
And that's why I'll say, as much as I like Maxey, it's kind of the same thing with Barnes. The only reason he's not like a stone cold lock is because there's so many good plays. You might just like, we've talked about him, Dinwiddie, Van Vliet, Dejounte Murray. All these guys are good plays. So you got to really pick and choose tonight.
Well, speaking of Murray, I'm putting him in long shots today, but he's only a long shot because of his position. He was one of the first guys I started to look at when I was going through this slate last night. And the more that we broke it down together and looking at all the other guards, he's going to be way too low owned today because of the position. You have to make him a priority. There are some really, really, really good guard choices. Like, what do you think Maxey is going to be? Like 50% plus? I'm assuming.
Yes.
75?
Yeah, something like that. And cash games are talking about, obviously, 75%.
So that eats up the vast majority of the point guard position right there. Well, you've mentioned a couple others, and that's leaving off 5 or 10 good guard choices on top of that. So, I think on a different slate, Murray would be huge chalk, but on today's slate, he'll still be popular-ish, but he's going to be way too low owned for how much we like him right here. Let's not forget, DeMar DeRozan's gone. This is now his team. He is the main place to provide offense, to generate his own shot. You don't have the ball stopper, DeRozan. Not that DeRozan didn't get better at passing, but you don't have that guy there taking mid-range shots. This is his team. Murray's good, like a guy who can get you 10 points on steals on any given day. Don't be surprised if those assist numbers go up this year. He averaged 5.5 last year. I would not be surprised to see him get to 7.5 this year. It's his team against a terrible team. I like him a lot today. The only knock on him, the guard position is loaded and he can't play everyone.
He is one of these guys. I know he's not cheap. He's way too expensive here. For this role now, again, there's no more LaMarcus Aldridge. There's no more DeMar DeRozan. It's his team. He's given the keys. We've seen him produce before. Great spot against an Orlando team that's going to be awful defensively. There's everything to like about Murray. And as you mentioned, the ownership's not there because there's so many good guards.
I'm just going to correct one thing there. Orlando's going to be terrible offensively and defensively, not just defensively. They're just going to be terrible.
This is true.
They could be the worst team in the league this year, right?
Yeah, no doubt about that.
They're just not good. I mean, that's the only real worry, I think, when you pick on Orlando this year is there might be games where they're so bad that they're out of it way too early. And that's might be going to be the biggest knock on them because I think you're right. They'll get better defensively when Isaac comes back. It's just a bad basketball team.
For sure. No doubt about it.
Complete and utter rebuild. All right, let's move over to your long shot. OG Anunoby. So we talked this one out in the members only video, and I started liking it a lot. And I'll make my favorite point that we got off of, and then I'll let you kind of talk about what you like. Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the guys projected to be relatively popular today, and he's a very similar price tag at forward. Again, small forward versus power forward, so it's not exactly the same. But why? Why is he going to be more popular than OG today?
Yeah, like that's a question we don't really have a good answer for. And that means there might not really be a good answer. Listen, I understand the love for Jaren Jackson. He's really good. He's got big upside. People have been wanting to play him. It seems like he's been on the shelf, hasn't really been unleashed for a couple years now. We also know the foul trouble is real there. And not even speaking of Jaren Jackson Jr., at this price tag at 6,100, another reason I think OG is getting left behind a little bit is because you got the cheap Toronto guys. Like we mentioned, Scotty Barnes. You might have Precious. You talked about Van Vliet, who's, going to be the guy here. So OG is kind of getting left behind on this slate. And, man, that makes for a great sleeper and a really good spot against Washington. This game has a ton of upside. OG played really well to end the year last year. He's a guy that's going to play a lot of minutes. He's really good defensively. Any stat line for him isn't like out of the question. He can get 4 steals. He can hit 5 threes. Like he can do a lot of different things. Doesn't mean he's going to do them all tonight, but I think his upside's 40 plus easy in this spot.
So Van Vliet's the number one offensive player on this team right now. Is Siakam out with Lowry gone, everything like that. You can make your arguments for Chris Boucher and stuff like that, but would he not be the number 2 option offensively on this team?
That's what I'm thinking.
Like he averaged 16 points per game last year.
Right.
Let's pretend Siakam never came back. Like it would not be shocking to see him averaging 20 to 22 points a game.
He's good too. Like he's got sneaky, like big trade value. Like he is definitely their second best player.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've been staring at the same Toronto team for a while. Well, maybe not. That's maybe a misstatement with Kawhi having been there not that long ago. But like he's been a role player. But I think he's been underrated because Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, and Van Vliet were better offensive options. This guy can play.
Yeah, now 2 of those guys are gone. Lowry's gone and Siakam's out tonight. And yeah, man, like there'll probably be minutes without Van Vliet on the court. And as much as we like Barnes for 3,400, like that's only because he's 3,400. It's not because we expect him to come in and make some immediate impact.
No, I rarely expect guys to make immediate impacts like their first game.
The more we talk about OG, the more I really think he's got huge upside here in this spot. And no one's going to play him like 50 against Washington, a team that is never good at defense. I just mentioned all the things he can do. Now, sure, he's not going to average 50 this year, so maybe he puts up 25 tonight. But I think there's real upside here at low ownership.
Yeah, very, very low ownership. And he's at that forward position that's a lot weaker. Like guard position is loaded. Center is loaded. And this is not abnormal. Forward isn't like it's weak, like there's no options, but the options in forward are not nearly as strong. And this is also a price range for guys that often get left behind.
Yeah, agreed.
So, all right, guys, thank you for coming back aboard. I want to wish everybody the best of luck tonight, this year, just in general. We will be a little more erratic with our schedule this year. When sports shut down last year and COVID changed the whole world, we both had to take on other things in our personal life, jobs and stuff like that. We'll still be here all year. We'll still be talking about this stuff every single day. We just have to be a little bit more erratic with our schedule.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.